Hello, good evening and welcome. We're live on GBC 24 and tonight we throw the spotlight on justice and we take a look at the Justice for All campaign that is going on around the country. You know that the congestion of Ghana prisons has been an issue of concern to the international community as contained in reports submitted by the United Nations Special Rapporteur and the United Kingdom experts who were respectively invited to assess the standards of Ghana's prisons. The reports outline extreme level of overcrowding, inadequate nutrition, insufficient access to medical care, absence of rehabilitation services, and personal insecurity. This, according to the report, is far below the internationally accepted standard. The Judicial Service, the Attorney General's Department, as well as the police and prison services, have launched the Justice for All program to help decongest the overcrowded prisons and to also address other issues cited in the report. When we ask, what has been the impact of the Justice for All program on the criminal justice system? This is just one of the questions that we would be seeking answers to from our guest tonight. And indeed, I have a guest of very distinguished gentlemen with me here in the studio tonight. And from my immediate left is His Lordship Justice Clemens Honyanuga. He is a Justice of the Court of Appeal. We are grateful that you joined us here, sir.
Thank you.
We also have Mr. Jonathan Oseiwusu. Mr. Oseiwusu is the Executive Director of POS Foundation. Later on, we will be asking him what POS Foundation stands for and what they seek to do. Finally, we do have Mr. or DSP Vitalis Aye. He is the Chief Public Relations Officer at the Ghana Prisons Service. DSP, thank you very much for coming. We are indeed grateful to all of you for joining us here on GBC 24. I'll start the discussion with you, His Lordship, because obviously it appears the Judicial Service has taken the lead role in this matter. But to put our conversation in proper perspective, can we again, and even before we do that, pardon me, because I know that just a day or two ago, there was a program in Kofodia about this Justice for All program. We'll just go back to Kofodia, just give you, a feel of what it is. And when we come back, His Lordship will begin the discussion for us.
The Justice for All project seeks to reduce overcrowding in the country's prisons by setting up special courts to adjudicate cases of prisoners on remand. This aims at reducing the number of remand prisoners in the country's prisons. The project also aims at conducting research and advocacy for the purpose of plugging legislative loopholes which permit the indeterminate detention of convicted prisoners. After the special hearing, 13 inmates were discharged and 15 granted bail.
All efforts have been made to get this remand project. As of now, the Chief Justice, in collaboration with the British High Commission, has almost finished preparations for the setting up of a permanent remand court in Sawam, which will take care of, and the High Court judge would be in charge of that court. It's all done to decongest the prisons.
The officer in charge of the Kofodia prisons, ACP Samuel Kobina Otabil, said the prison houses 795 inmates, out of which 232 are on remand. The executive director of PSO Foundation is Mr. Jonathan Oseiwusu.
Today you heard some of the issues. We were all laughing at court, others were trying to even weep. Because if somebody has stolen a chicken or a fowl and has spent 2 years on remand, or almost 2 years on remand, I don't think it's worth it. And I don't think if we blame the system, then I don't think the system is being fair to some of our citizens in the country.
Unfortunately for us, Mr. Oseiwusu is right here with us in the studio, so we'll be asking him to explain further some of the things that he sought to explain to us in that short clip. So that was just giving you a feel of what happened in Kofodia a couple of days ago. But back here to our studio, we have His Lordship Justice Clemens Honyanuga, and he is a Justice of the Court of Appeal. We have Mr. Jonathan Osewusu, of course, he's the Executive Director of Force Foundation, and again, we have DSP Vitalis Ayer, who is the Chief Public Relations Officer of the Ghana Prison Service. So, Your Lordship, before we went to Kufodia, I wanted to find from you exactly what it is that this campaign, the Justice for All campaign, seeks to do.
Thank you very much. This Justice for All program, as already indicated, is a collaborative effort by the Ministry of Justice and the Attorney General's Department, which started in 2007 with the other stakeholders like the police, prison service, and the others. It's all aimed at decongesting the courts and also to bring together all the stakeholders in the criminal justice system so as to collaborate to ensure a justice for all, and also to address the human rights of the prisoners who are held illegally and are there unreasonably on expired warrants. And also we have to deal with the matter of unreasonable delay in their trials, which is a human right, which infringes Article 14.4 of the 1992 Constitution, because it says that any unreasonable delay in the trial of any person, that person should be entitled to bail, a discharge, or otherwise by that court. And as I indicated already, we also to decongest the prisons, and that's the most important. As it's a pity that sometimes you go to the prisons and the congestion that you see, it's unpardonable. It's unpardonable. So we are doing our best to assist in decongesting the prison, and that is the overall aim of the Justice for All program.
But when you talk about unreasonable delay, the word unreasonable, from where I sit, appears to be very subjective.
Yes.
How unreasonable is unreasonable?
Well, for example, somebody is charged with murder, and then he has to go through the district court, and all the others before being charged finally at the High Court for trial, to be tried on indictment. And sometimes these people spend as much as 10 years. I remember that I had to discharge somebody in Ankerford prisons. He was there for 26 years for murder. He was charged with murder. In such cases, the Constitution thinks that they give it a purposive interpretation to it. Anybody who is held more than, say, 4 years could constitute an unreasonable delay in his trial. So what we have done is that we have a cut-off point for anybody who is charged with an offense or offenses for which they could be considered by the Justice for All program. For example, for murder, we fix it at 4 years. If anybody is charged with murder and he had been on remand for more than, or the minimum is 4 years, then we take up his matter and then we deal with it. When we get there, we either grant bail to the person or discharge the person. Because sometimes people are charged with murder and sometimes there are no witnesses. There are no even witnesses to enable the Attorney General's Department to deal with him, to prosecute him. So he stays there. Sometimes he's even forgotten about. You see, so such people, we think that they are unreasonably held in custody and are not being given fair treatment and trial. So the Justice for All is there for such people.
All right, Mr. Osewusu, the issue of remand prisoners has come up, and from where you sit as an NGO in your foundation's perspective, how bad is the situation?
Thank you very much. Pushing me to how bad and not how good. I wonder where I'll be coming from. I always define the Justice for All project as one of the factors that seems to be giving solutions to the dilemma between crime control and then due process. Whilst we are trying to ensure that crime is being controlled, we also want the due process to be followed. So as a human rights advocate, my concern is that if you charge somebody or arrest somebody or suspect that somebody has committed a crime, you make sure you follow the due process. If a warrant is given, then the person is sent to prison. You make sure when the warrant is expired, it's renewed. The cases we are dealing with Justice for All programs, most of them or the majority have their warrant expired. That constitutes administrative injustice. And that is where we as a foundation are happy and proud of that. At the end of the day, all is not lost. So if you ask me how bad it is, the system may not be so perfect, and others are found in the prisons for some quite number of time. But now here we have another system called Justice for All that is also looking into these same matters, sending the court to the prisons so that we can speedy trial some of these people who have been on remand for a long time, and that will give justice to such people who have been there. By one way or the other, they may not have gotten anybody to speak for them. Without this program, they would have been there. Like the example you saw we were given, if you go to steal one fowl, a chicken, a hen or whatever, a cock they call it, and you spend 2 years or almost 2 years on remand, my Lord is here to tell us, if he would have even sentenced the person, let me say that if the person had been found guilty and my Lord was supposed to have sentenced the person wouldn't have spent maybe more than 6 months or 1 year. But here is the case, that he has been on remand close to 2 years. And these are some of the issues that we think Justice for All is addressing. Had it not been this program, he may have spent more than that year. And as we go on with this discussion, you'll be surprised some of the things that happened over there, the cases that my Lord dealt with. And you could see from the judges, their face themselves, that they were at some point very furious. They were so angry that things were, or cases or offenses that were bailable, they couldn't understand. Such people have not been granted bail and rather have been put into the prisons. And that is something at least we are not happy about. But for the justice system, if you ask how good is it, how bad is it, the justice system in Ghana, how good is it, how bad is it is, we are trying to reform the system. And I think one of the factors that has come to help is this Justice for All, because it has helped a lot of people to come back home and changing the sleeping position of somebody for better. I am proud to be part of this project.
Right. Well, when we come back to His Lordship, I would like to find out from him what constitutes a bailable or an unbailable offense, because it's this issue that lands people in remand, and sometimes they get forgotten, and that's the right time for me to bring in DSP into the picture now, because remand, so these people are in the custody of the prison service.
That's true.
How come they get forgotten?
Forgotten, yes and no. The remand prisoner, quote and unquote, is the property of the police. We are just keeping them in trust for the police. And we keep reminding them anytime they're due for court. So we don't take them to court, we don't take them to hospital. When they're due for court, the police are the ones that come for them to court. When they're sick, it's the police that come to take them to the hospital. The only role we play is to ensure that they are safe in custody. That is what we do. So they're not forgotten. If there's a break, a linkage, if a link is broken, then that is where the issues are. In our case, we deal with warrants. A warrant has brought you, it's a warrant that will take you away. Yes. Even if a warrant is expired, then one must be replaced to take you away. We can't just ask you to get out of that place because the warrant has expired and go.
So, and forgive me for my ignorance, but when the warrant comes in, yes, the police obviously are the people who bring in the warrants. Do they hand it over to the prison service?
They do.
And so the prison service knows that there's an expiry date on this warrant.
There's always an expiry date on every warrant.
And so when the warrant expires,
yes,
whose duty is it to either renew or call for the renewal of such a warrant?
The renewal of the warrant is the duty of the police.
So in between the time that the warrant expires and the time, whatever time it is that the person is brought out,
yes,
it means that the person has been illegally, and forgive again for the person has been illegally incarcerated.
Yeah, but in our case, that could be true, but we cannot give you out like that. You've been given to us.
No, but if you cannot accept a prisoner without a warrant,
we can't
why do you keep him without a warrant? Because once the warrant has expired, there's no warrant.
And we can't release him without a warrant either. Because it's against the rules of the court. My lord is maybe you can explain
yes,
better.
I'll come to him. Yes.
Because due process must be followed. The court is the highest body. It's the court that will say yes or no to anything we do. And in our case, once the person's term is not definite, if you're a convict prisoner and you're sentenced to 14 years, we do your calculations and you know that after 12 years, this number of days you are going home. Remand prisoner, no. What happens is when you're about like 2 days to your date of court, we'll remind the police station involved that prisoner A or B is supposed to go to court. When they're not coming, in fact, we are the first point of call. We are the ones the prisoners are agitated against. They're angry with us. Sometimes we put them in the car and take them to the nearest police station and leave them there. But we take them to court and bring them back. It's a complex situation. As I said, maybe my lord will be able to help me explain this portion.
Right.
I'll come to
that, but so just to help clarify the issue, so it is the duty of the police officer to renew the warrant.
Yes.
So I'd like to find out, maybe again, it's a double-barreled question, Your Lordship. Obviously, then it means that somebody has failed to do his job. Is there any punishment for people who refuse to do their job and for whose, if you like, ineptitude, somebody else has to suffer in jail? That's number one. And number two, what is it that constitutes a bailable and non-bailable offense?
Thank you very much. Well, as rightly said by the public relations officer of the prison service, it is the responsibility of the police to take care of or to ensure that every remand prisoner that is sent to the prisons, they ensure that they renew their warrants so that they could be brought to court at the next agenda. But if they don't do that, then they cause a lot of injustice to the remand prisoner. You see, some policemen, especially the CID personnel, they are really in charge of them. They are the investigators, and they take charge of them. Some of them would come to court, take the prisoners back home, and the next time they will not come. Sometimes when the judge cares to find out, he's told, I haven't got money to go in for the prisoner. That is why he's there. Actually, even last time in Kufuringa, if you remember, there was this prisoner who was there. He was not sent to court. He was there on an expired warrant. So the investigator was there. So I asked him, why do you keep this man here? He said he didn't have money. He lives in Donkokru. And the prisoner was in Kufuringa. And he didn't have money to be transporting him up and down. That was why he was not coming. You see, so in such a case, I think the best thing what to do to keep certain is that maybe the court can make orders to their superiors, yes, for their misconduct, and then their superiors can take up the matter. And then what constitutes bail or non-bailable offenses? You know, there are, for bailable offenses, cases, we classify them into two. The first one is what we call misdemeanors. That's petty assault, and those of them, they constitute misdemeanors. And then we have what we call second-degree felonies, like stealing, fraud, and all those ones, which carry a maximum term of imprisonment of 25 years. They are all bailable offenses. if anybody goes to defraud anybody, he should be granted bail because it's a bailable offense. But you know, under our section 96 of our Criminal and Offences Procedure Act, you know, there is a long list of offenses for which bail is prohibited, and that constitutes non-bailable offense like murder, piracy, terrorism, and those things. Yeah, and the others. They are non-bailable. The law has made it very clear that robbery is inclusive. That is very common. Robbery is inclusive. The law has made it very clear that bail should not be granted in such circumstances. Somebody commits robbery, he should not be granted bail.
Mr. Owusu, some have said that this campaign could backfire, in the sense that we have heard arguments, sometimes even from the police, that when you see many of these armed robbery cases and you investigate deep, you usually find that these are people who have somehow managed to come out of prison. And so when we embark on such a campaign and continue to bring out suspected criminals, then we'll be indirectly encouraging crime on our streets.
I disagree. Yes, we have sometimes arrested people who have been in prison before and came back to do the same thing. But I believe you were also trying to say that some of them may have benefited from this project. But if you say they went in and came back, yes, it's been a trend. Those who go there being sentenced and coming back, society rejects them. There are a lot of factors that contribute to this. Society rejects them, and then they go there and they meet more people who have a lot of contacts outside. When they come in, society don't embrace them. The only friends they have are those people and the contact they give outside. So they fall on them and they become harder because that's what they've gone to learn from that place. Then two, there is some sort of a little of distortions to when it comes to justice for all and amnesties. When people are released on amnesty and they go back, they say they were from prison, so they think it's justice for all. That is also not true. We are not saying it's a perfect program. We may get one or two people to be part of it, but over the years since 2007, I can tell you that there has been a lot of measures that have been put in place to make sure that criminals are not part of this scheme. Number three, let's look at the cases that we dealt with. They were almost all bailable offenses, and few, in Kumasi, for example, we got only 2 robbery cases, which were not so complex, but most of them were threat of death, threat of harm, stealing, and these people in the first place were not supposed to, or are not supposed to be there. They are not supposed to be there because it's a bailable offense, so they are supposed to go home. So these are the things that we are trying to correct within the system. So the justice for all goes to deal with the situation. Then let's come to another issue on the same question you raised. When it comes to sentencing people, somebody may have gone to do something minor. We are not saying it's not a sin or it's not an offense. That is an offense. But every offense, me pulling a gun to rob you is different from me stealing your money without any weapon. So when somebody goes to commit an offense like smoking, like Indian hemp, it's also under narcotics, non-bailable. What the system is proposing, the judiciary, the AG, and the Interior Ministry have proposed now, is to desist from the custodial sentencing, so that some of the crimes can be given some sort of punishment. You smoke 1 roll of Indian hemp, you are not going to sell them. They should ask you to sweep from Nungwa to Teshi for 3 weeks, and then you will not do that again. On the other hand, they are also coming up with a policy so that the person can be sentenced to a rehab center, so that the person can gradually be rehabilitated, rather than pushing that person who went to smoke into the prisons, go there, spend 3 months there, make contact with armed robbers and their people outside. They come out, nobody is listening to them, they have no friends, so they go back there to the contacts they received, and then they become armed robbers. So from smoking to armed robbery, the system should prepare people to reform and get back to society for us to get benefit from them, but not rather for them to become threats to society after they've been there. That is why beginning I said that we are dealing with the dilemma between crime control and due process. And that was what my lord and my senior man here said. Because if your warrant has expired, then that means you are an illegal remand prisoner even over there. And so some factors come to play. And those are the factors that Justice for All has been one of the factors addressing this. Yet we are still in contact as NGOs with the judiciary, and I can tell you for a fact that the Chief Justice has taken this very, very serious. And my lord has been directly put in charge of this to get the reforms done, so that if a police officer is transferred to another community, he doesn't just transfer the docket without the human being in prison, so that the next time the prisoners are going to call the one in charge to come and pick the person to the court, that person may not be found because he has been transferred. And just to realize that he transferred the docket but not the human being, so the person may indirectly be missing within the system. And if Justice for All don't appear, then that means there is no Christ for him, because to the remand prisoner, Justice for All now is Jesus Christ, to release him from the system. So where it doesn't go on, it becomes a problem.
Wow.
I would
okay.
I would want to add, I'm not very comfortable with the criticism that is leveled at the program, that we go to release robbers back into society and that sort of thing. If I believe that they should look at the statistics, it will be found that those who are released and go back to commit further crimes, I believe that the number will be very negligible. I believe so. There are very, very few people who come back. Sometimes one or two, or at most three, that really go back to prison. And like my friend Mr. Usu has said, it's all due to a number of factors, especially their relations taking them back. You know, they shun them. When they are released, they shun them. They don't want to take them back. And I believe the PRO will be able to talk much about that.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. So we'll talk about reintegrating such persons back into the society. Yeah. But before we get to that, DSP, can you also, because obviously from the discussion, I get the impression that one of the key factors moving this Justice for All program is because there's too much congestion in our prisons. But can you give us a picture? Can you paint a picture of what really exists in our prisons for us?
Our prisons are really overcrowded. Because if at independence our population was a little above 6 million, and then we had a capacity of about 7,000 for our prisons. As we speak now, we have lost about 6 prisons: Jamesford, Osherford, Anumabo, Kokofu, and one other. We haven't expanded our prisons, and our population today is between 24, 25 million. That is how bad the situation is. Maybe space meant for 4 people is now being taken by 15 people. And that is really, really way above the roof. And it makes everything very difficult for us. One, how do you classify your prisoners? Prisons are supposed to be classified